Flag pin, shiny as a TV grin. Talking tough from a leather chair. Sending kids where they'll never sit. Golden tie, talking like it's do or die. Papers power while the cameras spin. Every word is a practice line. Walks, gotta walk. Big talk, big stage, small cars beat the drum, sell the shock. Warhawks, gotta walk. Podcast rage, sells fear like a backstage pass. New suit, same old script. Every map is a looking glass. Front row, cheering from the studio glow. Draw the lines with a marker pen. Other people pay the debt again. Warhawks, gotta walk. Big talk, big stage, small cars beat the drum, sell the suck. Warhawks, gotta walk. Name the names, then dodge the blame. Call it fate, call it keep us safe. They count votes, we count ghosts. Who counts the folded flags on kitchen table? Walks, gotta walk. Gotta walk. Gotta walk. Gotta walk. Gotta walk.
Good evening and welcome everyone. At short notice we have the irrepressible, the irredoubtable David Nolan.
Good evening, everyone. As Dave Mustaine from Megadeth said, peace sells, but who's buying? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I do like that song. And to be fair, I knocked that together in about 10 minutes. Well, Suno did the song, which I think is pretty fucking incredible.
Hey, kudos.
Yeah,
Very nice.
So Suno did the song, and I stuck the graphics on it in about 10 minutes because I was doing it for something, and I really would need to go back and jig it up a bit. But I deliberately put that bit at the end with the guys bringing in the flag covered coffins because
Yeah.
that's the part of war that they don't want you to think about.
That could well happen.
I think
With the ground force coming into Carg Island, it's bodies coming back in bags. You know what I mean?
it's like, did you hear Senator Graham? You know, he was getting interviewed and someone said, you know, this could be another Iwo Jima. He goes, well, yeah, we did that. The Yanks lost 26,000 troops in Iwo Jima. You think they'd stand that in this day and age? Do you?
Lindsey Graham. Well, there's a lot to be said for that old bag of a warhawk. I could say a lot more about him, but it might get you banned, Sergeant Grumpy.
Well, yeah, you might, and this is the problem, isn't it? Because it's always old guys in suits sitting at desks that are sending young men to their deaths, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Because it's looking like they're going to be sending more and more young men to their deaths.
Mm-hmm.
So the US strategy, let's just give us a quick recap. The US strategy is suffering from severe mission creep and nebulous exit strategies. What began as a neutralizing missile capabilities escalated into regime change and demands for unconditional surrender. Going forward, the US is transitioning into phase 2 of Operation Epic Fury. It sounds like a fucking Marvel movie, doesn't it?
No, it sounds like something from Inglorious Bastards. And just
Yeah.
letting you know, Google, YouTube, we are taking direct quotation of a movie that exists, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Just to let
And
you know.
this means less reliance on long-range standoff missiles and a massive increase in continuous tactical aircraft sorties directly over Iranian airspace. I'm not even sure that they're doing that yet, and we'll maybe talk about that as to why. I mean, what the hell? What the hell? So the Pentagon is actively modeling scenarios to physically secure or eliminate Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpiles, which may require deploying specialized ground forces directly into Iranian nuclear sites.
Right. Naftaz and these like particular areas. But notice the language that is being used. It's all in the linguistic manipulation. Highly enriched uranium. But let's go back a little bit, a couple of years during the Obama regime and Iran signing up to the JPCOA, which basically them coming out saying that we never wanted, we do not want nuclear weapons, and we're putting our balls to the wall. We're getting our names, we're putting a signature on paper to say that, basically.
Yeah.
But we've had this for what, since even the 80s with
Yeah.
Bibi Netanyahu. They're going for a bomb. They're going to make a bomb. You know what I mean? And again, it's lather, rinse, and repeat.
You're right, 100%. And Robin brings up a good point in the chat. He said,
Good evening, Forum. Good evening.
Was the latest Top Gun movie foreshadowing?
I mentioned at the start about Inglourious Basterds, but actually, it's like Operation Epic Fury. There was a film out there, I think, and Brad Pitt was in that as well, called Fury. Kind of, I think it was kind of during or post, like, you know, World War II. So yeah, it's very interesting, kind of how they choose these kind of Hollywood-esque types of names as their kind of their battle names, kind of going forward.
Yeah, and I don't know. Sometimes I think there's a blurring of lines between Hollywood and actual military. You know, it seems to me sometimes when you deal with the US military, that was weird, that they're actually, you know, acting it out sometimes. You know, you feel that they're playing a part. It's bizarre.
Well, it's interesting. It's like, you know, and no disrespect to our American friends, like our listeners. I think that this was something that you said before, Sarge, about, you know, it was a very kind of general kind of, you know, sweeping statement that you made not to offend anyone, of course, out there in America. Hello. But a lot of Americans do like to step up and be performers and kind of actors, or so to speak, with bravado, you know. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you're right. Because I did, and hands up, I said it. I said every American's a born actor. Stick a camera in their face, and they're on point straight away. They are brilliant at it, and that's not to knock them down or say something bad about them, but they are nearly always comfortable in front of a camera. And yet, you put us in front of a camera, and you know it takes people a long time to get used to talking to camera.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got a client just now that's I'm trying to do some stuff with, and you know, he could talk the hind legs off a donkey, as they say up here, and yet you stick a camera in his face, and it's boom, or the words start coming out in the wrong direction. You know, it's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
MKBVBNJHV, that's a name and a half, says fake it till you make it. Well, you're right. That is part of it. You've got to do that. Yeah.
Just want to say, again, a big hello to the troll room. People are kind of going, where's Ben? This is supposed to be kind of like chase and descent. And the truth is, folks, just to clear it up, Ben had a wee bit of a medical emergency. He's doing okay, but there was a bit of a panic. David's here. He stepped in. All is well, and you'll see Ben again very soon. And best of health to Ben. I hope you get well, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And he will be. He'll be fine. He has these occasionally, and I'm not downplaying it.
Yeah,
because any kind of medical thing is serious. But Ben usually bounces back brighter than ever the next day.
Yeah.
So hopefully. He better not be on Fortnite, Dread Eye. I told him if I caught him on Fortnite, I'll be down there and break his legs. He better not be on Fortnite. So he told me he was in his bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on track with Operation Epic Fury. So I think it's been an epic fail when it comes to regime change. That the Americans and the Israelis are certainly not going to achieve that. I mean, it has been achieved thus far, and they're not going to achieve that. And let's just remind ourselves, over the past 1 to 2 weeks, Trump came out with his amazing grammar as usual and said that, oh yeah, this is very complete. The situation is very complete. Like, okay, Donald, here we are now, and you've got your Secretary of War, P.T. Hegseth, asking who is set to ask Congress for another $200 billion to continue this. And it is also alleged, I'm not sure if you've heard about this or read about this, John, in other kind of, independent or alternative news or media online. I picked this up from X, but he's saying to the GCC nations, it's going to take $5 trillion, 5 trillion USDs to get all this done with Iran. And if you want us to back off, if you want us to stop this,
I saw that. Yeah.
it's going to cost you bloody $2.5 trillion, which wouldn't even serve the trillions of the US debt that exist on its debt clock. I mean, it's absolute bloody madness. What the hell is that orange monkey playing at?
Well, you know what? I had a lot of time for Trump first time around. I thought he was making reasonable decisions. He didn't do anything that bad. The country seemed to be on the up. America did seem to be becoming great again. He didn't start any wars. And really I thought, yeah, what's not to like? This time, what the hell's happened? Because, and I'm not convinced it's just him. Well, in fact, I'm definitely not convinced it's just him. I think the people he surrounded himself with this time have been completely different. I mean, he had people like Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor. He was an advisor the first time round. He's not there this time. Why? Because he's maybe espousing moderation. Don't do this, don't do that. Whereas Trump, I think, now feels he's got to go in, and he's got to go in hard because he's only got 2 years left, really.
Yeah.
And even then, he might not even have 2 good years left, because if he loses the midterms in November, he's going to be like toothless for the next 2 years, hasn't he?
I would speculate that could be potentially a high probability that this is seriously going to impact his midterms by, as you said, November, especially if this absolute, pardon my language, folks, shit show continues for days, weeks, and months. We cannot afford for this to continue for any more days, weeks, or months, from what we're starting to see unravel already.
Yeah. So he went into Venezuela. If we go back slightly, he went into Venezuela, and I don't know how he did it, but there's talks about strange weapons and things being involved, like sonic weapons or whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Black Ops stuff.
And
big time, yeah.
And people being paid off big time, to let people in and not put up too much resistance. So he went into Venezuela and achieved his goal in hours. They removed Maduro. They had him paraded through New York, basically like a ticker tape parade in reverse. I mean, some of the things he does, it's like a junta. It's like a third world country, isn't it? Some of the things he does, and some of the things he says. But anyway, he did Venezuela and he got it done and dusted. And while he hasn't changed regime as such, because it's still the same people in post, all below Maduro, the Americans appear to be running the show, and they've got control of the oil, which I think ultimately was the main game. And not even just control of the oil, it was to cut China off from it. I think that was the first start, to cut China off from the oil. And they did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it gave him a false sense of security.
I think that's a very good point. And Trump and his cabinet, and I guess, the sailors, like, the military, they're on this false sense of security, or this type of high since that as well. Like Team America, it's like, fuck yeah, like, we are the best. But it's like, come on, in that false sense of security, like, do you not realize that, Iran is not Iraq, and you're dealing with a
Yeah.
very different beast, something that you war gamed with quite a good couple of years ago, and you appear to lose as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. They did those war games. They did tabletop exercises where they
Yeah.
were fighting Iran for people that maybe didn't know, and they planned stuff out. And these things are fairly accurate. Or they give you the gist of what's going to happen and how things go, and they can be really useful. And we use them in the police as well. We did tabletop exercises for major incidents and things, and they are really useful. But every time they did it with Iran, they lost. Well, not so much they lost, they just can't win. There's no winning strategy here.
Mhm.
Because to achieve regime change, they've got to put in place a different regime, and it just, because of the way the leadership is distributed, and it's broken into provinces and
Yes.
independent units of the Republican Guard, and then they've got three separate armies.
It's compartmentalized. It's actually quite
It is,
complicated
yeah.
how they run their kind of, if you want to call it, their regime over there. Like, it is isolated and compartmentalized. They're actually very clever about the way that they've kind of gone about things. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
of course the Iranians have been planning for this existential moment for many decades.
yeah,
Dare I say, even after Mossadegh in the early 1950s,
yeah.
which the Brits and the Americans are still quite butt hurt about, I would imagine. And it's the same
Mhm.
old situation as well. It's a very multifaceted, multivariable thing that is happening, but it almost certainly it is, it's a control of energy type conflict or
Yeah,
situation, along with the other so-called biblical prophecy stuff that's going on the side as well. I'm not going to get into that too much. I
yeah.
think the folks know what I'm talking about with regards to that, but I don't want to get the channel banned. Okay.
Well, yeah. And I mean, just to, maybe we should have structured this better, but we didn't have a lot of time to pull this
Yes.
together. But I think we've got to point out as well that just because we're talking about Iran not getting beat here doesn't mean that we support them or the regime.
Not necessarily, of course, not. No.
Because while I have nothing but admiration for the Persians as people, right, I think the actual regime in Iran is totalitarian and authoritarian in the extreme.
Well, you could call it, yes, of course. Let's give some light and some shade here. Let's like provide some balance. Is very important. You know what I mean? That, yes, one could ascribe, the so-called Iranian regime as a theocracy, as
Yeah, yeah,
as theocratic, but we have been kind of dumbed down and kind of propagated with a lot of stuff about that as well, like where it is
we
almost
have.
certainly not the case in Tehran, where you will see niqabs and hijabs every single kind of place you go. It's not
Yeah,
exactly like that, so we're facing that too.
and and
Um,
and you're right, David, because in some respects, Saudi Arabia is harder on its own people than Iran is.
well, this is the thing. If you want to kind of pull apart and look at a kind of a closer definition of what a theocratic state or what a theocracy is, okay, then definitely you could put the likes of Saudi Arabia on the table. When you compare and contrast those two nation states against each other, there's quite a bit of nuance, and it is
Yeah,
also important, like, for people to realize and try to deprogram themselves that Iran is not categorically and overall like Muslim based. It's actually it's a lot more kind of diverse than that. Yes, you do have a lot of people of the Islamic faith, but you've got Zoroastrians, you've got a huge amount of Christians, you've got a
yep.
very large proponent of Jewish faith based individuals
Hmm.
like living there as well, and it exists in a kind of a way as compared to other states like such as Syria, for example. That would be
Yeah.
something off the top of my head where I could kind of compare and kind of contrast and bring in kind of similarity. But in terms of what's more of a theocratic or a theocracy based state, well, certainly I would bring in Saudi Arabia into that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Soran brings up Bahrain is concerned about civil unrest. Well, Bahrain is something in the region of 85% Shiite. Because they're not Sunni. And that makes Bahrain an outlier in that side of the Gulf, because most of that side of the Gulf are Sunni. And people need to understand that Iran, while it being Shiite, is only responsible for about 2 to 5% of all Islamic terrorism. Most of it is conducted by Sunni groups, which is funded by people like Saudi Arabia and your friends, the CIA.
So yeah, I think it's a very important point, for the audience, for people who they listen to and they watch this afterwards. Absolutely, we need light and shade, we need balance. No one is saying that you have to like the Islamic Republic State of Iran, or whatever you like to call it, or its factions or anything like that. But with what we see that's going on right now, and how much Trump and the American militia are doubling down on the tactics, and to kind of get back on track, John, this 48-hour window, this threat, that we've seen, this has the potential to really, really, really badly hurt the rest of the world. So I guess that evidences more of our overarching kind of critique against Trump and his particular regime, and not necessarily, I guess, the Iranians, right?
So he set the clock ticking 48 hours from when he made the speech, which was 6 hours or so, or maybe more ago.
Yeah.
He said if the straits are not open within 48 hours, he will be taking out Iran's nuclear power stations and starting with the biggest ones. Now, that's just crazy. That's civilian infrastructure.
Is absolute, as to
that's a war crime.
Katie Hopkins here. That is batshit bonkers.
Yeah,
that is absolutely batshit bonkers, because we know the tit for tat kind of surgical attacks that the Iranians, they're not going to go for a scattergun approach. It's like, we're going to take out desalination plants, and we're going to do the same with other forms of energy structure around us as well. That is what potentially could happen. But who the hell does Donald J. Trump think he is, saying that, we're going to force open the Hormuz Strait, we're going to take control, of this, this part of this kind of sovereign nation, and we're just going to bully and plow through and open it, or we're just basically we're going to try and obliterate you. I mean, it is absolutely crazy stuff.
And what that triggers in me is the fact that I think the American hierarchy, they don't seem to understand the cultural differences at play here, because these guys aren't taking this as, we're frightened, we're going to be, I mean, look at Palestine, look at Hamas. They are, I mean, Gaza's flat. It's flat.
Yeah.
And yet Hamas is still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a thing amongst normal run-of-the-mill Palestinians. Now, the same thing applies to Iran. You threaten them, and you're just getting people's backs up. And if you're British, did Hitler threatening to bomb London flat make you more likely to kowtow and turn over and surrender during the World War II? No, it didn't. It made you more determined to see it through. And if you're Vietnamese, did America bombing your country, the north of your country, flat, and deforesting it, with Agent Orange, and killing people from toxic fumes as well as
Monsanto. Monsanto. Yeah.
So did that make you more likely to give up and allow the Americans to win? No, you kicked their ass.
It unifies the nation rather than dissolving it into regime change. This is just crazy. It emboldens the people. It unifies the nation.
It doesn't matter how good your technology is. Look at Afghanistan. Look at the people that died in Afghanistan. On both sides. But look at the damage that was done to American, British, Australian, Canadian soldiers, with IEDs, right? And so the technology was basic. This is basic guerrilla warfare. Mm-hmm. And you're kicking a superpower's ass because it's been there for 20 years, and all it's achieved is replace the Taliban with the Taliban. And this is the thing. This is where America gets too obsessed with its power, because ultimately, does it really have any that's not economic? In this day and age, I'm beginning to think it's losing both militarily and economically.
It's the death throes of an empire. Like,
It
I
is.
mean, and a big hello to Ed if he is tuned in, if he gets to watch this. This is a fantastic position for for someone like Ed with international relations, like to weigh into
Yeah.
this as well. He would have a lot, to add to this. But kind of staying on point, coming back to the 48-hour window, I think that is
Yeah.
bellicose rhetoric that Trump is like using all the big word and the threats. It's very, very bellicose, but I still do think that there is a chance that that Trump and the Americans will act upon that in some way. I think that
Oh, they
is a
will.
hard threat, but at the same time, it's very bellicose. But I feel the attitude then of the Iranians is basically it's like that moment with Morpheus, who was training with Neo in the Matrix for the first time at like Kung Fu, and Neo is just like he gets back up and it's like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Bring it at me. You know what I mean? That's the analogy I can kind of like, bring about like from this, like the Iranians just like, bring it on. We'll
Yeah.
take you by the throat. You know what I mean? It's two dogs going against each other. They're ready for it. They're locked for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, one of those dogs doesn't need to win. It just needs to stop the other dog from beating it.
Mm.
You know? And that's not the same as winning, is it?
Yeah.
So, and one of those dogs just needs to survive. And if that dog's Iran and survives and keeps its regime intact, regardless of what state its country's in, it's beating a superpower again. And it's really knocking American confidence, and it's standing when the rest of the world is looking on. Because everybody else is looking on. I mean, all those Persian Gulf states on the other side of the Gulf, they all rely on America and American bases for their support and their protection. And that has not worked out well, has it? Kuwait, did that Kuwait pilot shoot down 3 F-15s? That seems to be the case.
3 F-15s? I thought it was just one.
Oh no, the Kuwait F-18 Hornet shot down 3 F-15s. 3 missiles, 3 kills.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, that shows you the difference in technology as it moves on, but over friendly, albeit they're over friendly ground. They're over Kuwait when they got shot down, but
yeah,
they should have been aware. Surely they should have been aware. I mean, those F-15s have got 2 pilots, well, 1 pilot and 1 weapons officer. So really, their task load is half of what it is for someone flying an F-18, which has only got 1 pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy apparently shot down 3 of them.
Yeah. So Sarge, let's go on to Diego Garcia stroke Che Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with Diego Garcia? I know you've been on top of this a lot.
Two missiles were fired in the general direction of Diego Garcia. One of them fell out of the sky for reasons unknown. One of them, and that's not to be unexpected with Iranian missiles. They're not perfect. Nobody's are.
But they got a lot of power behind them. They have a lot of tech. Yeah.
And one of them gets shot down by a US destroyer. Okay. Now, the US destroyer in the Indian Ocean is going to be part of the Abe Lincoln Carrier Group.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be one of the Aegis destroyers protecting that carrier. Was the missile aimed at the carrier and not Diego Garcia? And I think that's the case. I don't think it was heading to Diego Garcia at all. I think it was
bullshit propaganda. Mm-hmm.
I think it was heading for the carrier because, I mean, I said it at the beginning of the year, and I was quite explicit. I said, this is the year that a US carrier gets sunk, and I think Iran's trying to do it still.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, somebody had said that, there was 2 carrier groups there, but the Ford is in Suda Bay in Crete after the fire. Now, apparently a fire started. Do you know about this one? Yeah?
Which is this?
The Gerald R. Ford, the aircraft carrier.
Oh,
you remember how it had the blocked toilets on the way to the Gulf?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it had to go, when it was in the Red Sea, it had a fire. So a fire started in the laundry room. that wiped out 600 berths.
Oof.
So they're sending mattresses. They're taking mattresses off the carrier that's under construction just now, the John F. Kennedy, and they're sending 1,000 mattresses to Crete to rebirth the people, because at the moment they're sleeping in mess rooms and tables and whatever, because they don't have any berths. Now, a fire in a laundry room took them 30 hours to put out.
That's a bit sus for a naval vessel.
The whole thing sounds rather suspicious. I mean, it could be a missile dropped on it and they're covering it up.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of covering up, did you see the one on Friday? And this is an aside, people. I know we're going off topic, but French sailor on the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier in the Med, somewhere in the Med, position completely known because he activated the Strava while he was jogging on the deck. And you can see him jogging on the deck.
Oh, jeez, he activated his
ship. Yeah, he put his Fitbit,
Oh.
yeah. So you can see him jogging on the deck as the thing sails along the Med.
Oh my God.
So you've got this trail of nothing, and this guy's jogging in the Med. Yeah. Fucking unbelievable.
That's not very good personal kind of, OPSEC, like operational security. Like,
That's nuts, mate. But going back to those missiles, so the big fear mongering now is that they could hit Britain. They could hit Britain. They were aimed at a British base in Diego Garcia. They've already attacked the British base in Akrotiri. Now, let's remember, the missiles or drones that hit Akrotiri are confirmed not to have come from Iran.
Thank you. Because I was corrected on this today about a friend, and I fell into that trap, with the fog of conflict and the fog of war. The first victim is truth, and we have to let that fog separate, the dust settle.
Yeah.
So it could have been someone else, Sarge, yes?
Yeah, it could have been someone else. It could have been someone from, say, Lebanon or Syria or whatever. Or it could have been someone just a little bit south of Lebanon and Syria.
Yes. Yes,
Because
a rogue state.
What was it? That guy, is it David Vance or something? The guy that's always making comments on Twitter, and he goes, the British government have said the missiles can't reach London. This is just fear mongering. And Israel says, the Israel government says they can reach London. Who would you rather believe? And I said, well, on this occasion, while the UK government is known to lie, the other government lies all the fucking time. And it does.
Yes, so what we have is, yes, it could well have been another particular bad actor or rogue state that could have hit like Cyprus instead. But this whole thing about an Iranian, ballistic or very long range missile traveling some 4,000 kilometers to strike Blighty. I find that a bit hard to swallow. I find that a bit hard to believe that other NATO allied states like throughout Europe would allow that sort of thing to happen, and they wouldn't attempt to kind of shoot it down. So it does stink a bit. Absolutely.
I think if there was going to be any action in the UK against American bases or British bases or whatever, it would be from sleeper agents, sleeper cells that are already here.
But I think what's being cooked up, and I spoke about this with a friend earlier today, Sarge, is that we're starting to see this on headlines. Iran could target kind of Britain. What we have here is a type of a Tony Blair stroke, Alistair Campbell, 45 minutes from attack situation, which is being brewed up with all of this other rogue state, propaganda, which is to drag Keir Starmer and others further and deeper, like into conflicts. That's what I'm aware and concerned about. This is a Blair, Alistair Campbell 2.0 Iraq WMD's kind of moment, and people should be very aware of that, what they're reading. And
that's exactly what Soram's alluding to, I believe, here. 45-minute weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, and now, did you hear about Friday night, when, or sometime on Friday, it came to my attention quite late on Friday, that 2 people were arrested outside Her Majesty's Naval Base Clyde, sometimes known as Faz Lane,
Okay.
Just up the road from where I am just now.
Okay. Sorry for your troubles there, Sergeant.
Which
It
is
was nice
where,
knowing you.
which is where we keep our nuclear submarines.
Okay.
So an Iranian and a Romanian were arrested trying to break into HMB Clyde. No, I can't accept
I'm
that.
deeply suspicious of that stuff.
Yeah,
popping up in certain publications throughout UK shame stream, big time. Who's cooking that up? Who's injecting that for the public to read? I have a couple of ideas.
Yeah, I've been there, right? My dad was in the Navy, and in the 80s, things were a lot less controlled than they are now. Like, I've been in Patronising, which is the US Naval Intelligence Center up in the just beside Rosyth. So I've been in the building that my dad worked in, and it was pretty cool because they get maps on the wall with all the marks where the Soviets were. You know, this was the 80s. So they had the maps on the wall where all the Soviet missiles were going to hit. And I'm looking at Scotland and thinking, do we really want to be living here, Dad? So, yeah, HMB Clyde is one of the most heavily protected bases in the country.
And just like that, we have an Iranian and a Romanian in the mix. Is like, hello, McFly, folks, if you're going to swallow that, you're going to swallow anything. Seriously.
I just kind of think it's there to keep Mr. Swinney in his place. You know, keep Scotland just fucking back off. This is a case of national security. Mm-hmm. You know, the HMB Clyde's not yours. It's the UK's. So I think it might have been formatted that way or done that way in order to keep the Scottish government in their place. You know, just fucking sit down and let the big boys handle this one.
Yeah. So definitely, like in summary, we're starting. I'm definitely seeing a lot of this stuff popping up throughout, like the usual mainstream kind of publications. There's a lot of injections of kind of certain kind of cooked up or overinflated stories mentioning specifically about Iranian nationals or sleeper cells, and there's this thing happening in Clyde and all of that. So again, I think people should be very aware of that and dig deep, and that it could well not be true. It's just to keep that Iranian tension high, or so to speak.
Yeah, well, I think it is, and I think. See, I'm not quite sure what Starmer's stance is on this, because he now seems to be more amenable to America doing things than he was. Like he's sending. He said he was prepared to send an aircraft carrier to the Gulf. I don't know how, and I don't know what he was going to put on it, because we don't. I did this at the end of last year. We've only got something like 12 F-35s that we can put on an aircraft carrier, and when we do exercises with the US, they lend us planes. Because they haven't been delivered yet.
And what the hell about domestic security? What about like national security? We need a bit of kit for that, you know?
But this is the problem, right? We've only got 48 F-35Bs at the moment, right? And we share them. The Navy shares them with the RAF. Now we've got 2 aircraft carriers that can carry something like 48 F-35Bs each. So you can't stock your aircraft carriers with the planes because we've only got 48. So, and you need at least 12 or 16 to remain in Blighty, to protect Blighty, right?
It's jet pooling. So we have carpooling. This is jet pooling.
Yeah, and then you've got to remember, there's usually about a quarter of your squadron is in maintenance at any one time, and the F-35 is particularly problematic because once it goes for a major... for a major service, right? Either has to go to Norfolk in Virginia, not fucking Anglia, right? Either has to go to Norfolk in Virginia, or Italy. I can't remember exactly where it is in Italy, but there's a big NATO base in Italy. They're the only 2 places that can service it. We can't service it at home. Mm-hmm. And the service mileage on F-35s is freaking horrendous. I mean, it's like the F-35 that was shot down, or damaged over Iran and had to make an emergency landing, they reckon was hit by a $7,000 missile. $7,000. Now this is a what? 30 billion aircraft or something.
Wow.
30 million aircraft.
Yeah.
A $7,000 missile took it out. This is what you're dealing with, and it's old technology, and it's like there's stories coming out from Yugoslavia when the Americans were flying over Yugoslavia, bombing everything and getting shot down, and they couldn't figure it out. And it turned out that the Slavs' radar was that old that it could pick up their stealth fighters. They were picking up 117s. You remember the first original stealth fighter?
Yes.
They were picking them up and shooting them down. And once they shot three of them down, I think they shot 3 of them down, and the Yanks just thought, no, this isn't working.
That's not very stealthy.
No, it's not. So their old radar, because they found if you paid really strict attention to it, there were blips coming up that was showing you the aircraft, but they were tiny. You would assume they were birds or something, but the Yugoslavians thought, no, that's not right. That's
not something. A bird. That's a plane.
And they shot the fuckers down.
Oh,
and the same thing's happening now in Iran against the F-35, and that makes American pilots shit their bricks, because suddenly you don't have air superiority because you obviously haven't obliterated all the air defenses, have you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next thing that we've got is the global economic fallout.
Yeah.
So we are starting to see some very worrying things, like we've been seeing over the past week in the media, regarding the unraveling and the kind of the further increasing shocks to the global markets. And that is something I said to you in kind of preparation, John, quick preparation. That is something that has widened my eyes a lot over like the past couple of days.
Yeah.
It's something that we have in the notes, but when you see, say Qatar Energy saying that we are seriously thinking about force majeure for these particular countries, it may not be an exhaustive list, to commit to force majeure. So to kind of break contract due to force majeure, for a period of up to, say, potentially like 5 years for their LNG.
Yeah, and just to let people know, that means that you can't claim anything back. Insurance won't pay out, and you don't get anything back on the contract because it was out with the energy companies. A
very typical thing that's baked into a lot of
control,
kind of commercial and other kind of contracts, a force majeure clause. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cheers, Soram. See you later, mate.
But that's worrying, and it's something that we discussed kind of pre-show as well. John, it's about the gradual ripple and deeper global economic shocks that it's not if, it's when, and why it's so imperative that all of this stuff just stops. It has to stop, because if this sort of thing continues on for days, weeks, or even months by Hegseth and Trump's Accord, things are going to get very, very difficult, very, very quick. And pre-show also, things are serious because Keir Starmer, it's in the news this evening in the Telegraph, saying that he's having a Cobra meeting tomorrow. He's having a Cobra meeting with ministers tomorrow. And that's an even greater signal that behind the scenes, that contingency plans, contingency measures are being drawn up for the weeks and the months ahead. And things could get a lot more serious, a lot more quicker over the next couple of weeks and months. Something that people should pay attention to. Yeah,
absolutely. I think they could. And I think Americans need to recognize that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that they are a net exporter of energy, because energy prices are set on the global stage. Therefore, the energy prices go up. They go up domestically as well. And this is why Trump is desperately pulling out all the stops to try and stop this now. For instance, with his 48-hour ultimatum, because he needs this to go away now. He didn't think it through. They didn't plan it out.
Very gung-ho.
They didn't go in with any kind of proper strategy. So you got to think, what the hell were they actually thinking?
What did they think the end result was going to be? Of course. It's come on, you idiots knew they were going to close Hormuz.
They literally thought, we'll take out, what's his name, Khamenei, and that'll be it. It'll fall. The people will rise up. The people will rise up and they'll do the work for us, and that's it. We'll be the good guys. And how's that turned out, Donald? How's that turned out?
It was a whack-a-mole situation. His son took his place, and obviously I'm not sure if he's appeared publicly yet, but I imagine he's still kind of like hiding in secret to protect his life. But it has been a whack-a-mole.
It's not just situation. That. His son's fucking pissed to the hilt because they killed his daughter. Yeah. When they killed his dad.
Now that's something I didn't know about. I thought they just went after the old boy Ayatollah Khomeini. I did not know that the daughter was.
So the Khomeini and his granddaughter were killed at the same time.
Right. So
the son is pissed, and he is on a jihad. It's crazy. I mean, this is you don't. I mean, I don't like Islam, and that's just a personal opinion of mine. I don't like Islam. I think it's a cult, right? But you've got to respect that these people believe in this, and they have their culture and they have their thoughts. And if you fuck with them in their own country, and they bring down hell on you, what did you expect? It's like, if people come to my country and don't follow my rules, then I would expect them to have hell brought down on them. And that might happen, yeah. But what do you expect if you go into someone else's country and disrespect them to that degree that you're killing the leaders? You're bombing the services, you're bombing the people. Of course, the people are going to... Robin fucking nailed it. He just nailed it with 4 words. Islam bad, USA dumb. And I think he's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sums it up. And, that's kind of what's happened here. Trump has gone in with very poor advice, in my view. Very poor advice. And no proper exit strategy. And every time you saw that 4-star general, or whoever it is that's in charge of the Joint Chiefs, standing beside him with the guy's face tripping him, his chin's on the floor, he's always looking down, and he's mumbling away when he's giving his speeches. That guy doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be doing what he's doing, but he's doing it because he's serving his president, which you can understand, but it's not right, is it? And that brings us on to Jack Trent, who resigned. What's his name? Trump's chief of counterterrorism, director of counterterrorism.
Was that a couple of days ago? Or just...
Yeah, it was. It was last week, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he said he could no longer support this, and he tendered his resignation. We could see something from Tulsi Gabbard as well, who's the director of national intelligence, the DNI.
Did you see Tulsi on getting drilled by Congress, and she just refused to answer the question, basically, because the whole thing, Jack Trent said there was no imminent threat from Iran, and this is something that she's said before with regards to weapons. This is something she said. It's something the intelligence community have flagged up. There is no imminent threat, right? And this isn't new. This isn't something that's surprising people. The intelligence community has been saying this for years, that Iran is nowhere near getting a bomb. Now, that might change, right? Because unless I'm reading the room wrong, America is now sending the world signals. If you are a small country and you don't want to be bothered by America, make sure you've got a nuclear weapon. Because look at Korea, North Korea. I mean, everybody thought that guy was a lunatic, and he's, firing missiles and they're blowing up and crashing and everything, and now nobody will go near him because he's sitting there with a nuclear weapon and he can deploy it.
Or more, potentially. It's just a case of just leave Kim Jong and his daughter to their dynasty, to their decades.
Leave them alone,
Just leave them alone, and it's just we need to move on from that. Yeah.
And look at Pakistan. Nobody bothers Pakistan, apart from India. But they've both got nuclear weapons, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the American doesn't bother Pakistan. But we go into Afghanistan, So we'll go where there's no nukes. Well, but we won't go where there are nukes.
The CIA, I would imagine. Hello, CIA. They like to have a little poke and a little sojourn into places like Pakistan.
Well, yeah,
something they need, something they want. If they want to create something in another country.
It's not an invasion, mate. That's not an invasion. But you think about it. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, do you think America would be doing what they're doing right now?
I think it's a case with Iran. They'd be damned if they did, damned if they didn't. They would just be damned because we need the oil. We're still pissed since Mossadegh, since the nationalization, and
so the question is, who's running the show? Is it Netanyahu? Because every attack on Iran doesn't seem to be helping world affairs or even America's interests. It seems to be helping a certain other country's interests.
I think it's all down to injecting a little bit of humor into this, because I know Ben loves to entertain. He's sadly not here with us this evening. I think it is the cigarette smoking man from the X-Files.
Yeah, it could be.
He is like his character or his incarnation is somewhere about, you know what I mean, with the rest of the shadowy kind of cabal group. But there is a cigarette smoking man character there who is kind of central to orchestrating all of this shit show that is going on now, potentially.
So let's start winding this up, shall we, David? Yeah. So let's think about what's America going to right, about Dover Air Force Base, yeah? That's where they receive the incoming bodies of American servicemen that have been killed in action.
Hold on a second. Dover Air Force Base, America, or are you talking Dover, UK?
No, Dover Air Force Base in America.
In America, right? Okay.
They receive the incoming bodies of American servicemen that have been killed in action.
Okay.
They have recently advertised for personnel to handle personal effects.
So right. So they're expecting.
They're expecting incoming because they're ramping up their staff. Okay.
Right. Okay.
What's Americans going to do when they start seeing the bodies coming in? But they won't, will they? Because what did the White House do on Friday? They said there's going to be a news blackout on any returning American servicemen that have been killed in action. That's
unacceptable.
That's what they're doing.
Wow.
Now that tells me that more than 13 Americans have died already.
That's not democracy. That's not a democratic state when they're going to issue that sort of blackouts. That the public have a right to know about that.
America's not running as a democracy just now. It's not even running as a constitutional republic, which is supposed to be. It's running as a fucking dictatorship. Mm-hmm. And as I said, Trump had his time, but he's lost it now. It is literally a dictatorship, and it's hanging together by a thread.
What is your prediction of not just the days, but this is changing by the day, of course. Let's kind of not kid ourselves. But what's your prediction over the coming days and the weeks? I mean, do you think Hegseth is going to get 200 billion? Big ones, big Benjamins, to spend on this? Is there going to be an incursion, on Karg? How far do you think the Americans are going to go in this, John, while the rest of the world is just bleeding painfully from this?
If they put American Marines on Karg, Iran will just flatten it. They'll just flatten it, because let's face it, America has cut Iranian oil production from 4 million barrels a day. Iranian oil exports from 4 million barrels a day to 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm. That's a trickle, isn't it? Really,
it's a trick. They've more than halved it. But Iran's got another they've got another outlet because they're also on the Black Sea, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So they've got another outlet for their oil, so they can get rid of their oil that way.
Mm-hmm.
It might take them a wee while to get it set up, but they can do that.
Special passage,
Iran,
of course. Mm-hmm.
Iran doesn't need the revenue from a 1.5 million barrels of oil a day in order to keep dropping missiles on an Israel and American bases that are out of defensive options.
Mm.
Because if you saw any of the footage from Israel, those missiles are now going in uncontested.
That fire from the sky, that recent cluster. Yeah, I saw that over the past day
but
or so. Yeah. Mm.
Last night they dropped a missile on the Israeli nuclear facility. I use that term loosely because Israel doesn't have a nuclear facility, but
I see where you're tracking. I see where you're coming from.
They attacked Iran, tat for tat, dropped one on them, and that missile came in completely uncontested. There are no interceptors going up now to try and hit down the missiles that are coming in. So
Iron Dome is essentially ineffective.
It's gone. Well, it's not. They've run out of missiles. I mean, if you think about it, if they maybe had 600, 800, Patriot missile systems, but they were firing 2 for every one coming in. And in some cases, are firing up to 8 for every one coming in. They just rip through them.
I mean, it was only initially designed to kind of, protect and to fend off against, like Hamas incursion, like their types of kind of like rockets that would come in, not Iranian tech, or so to speak, or their style of Reshniks or hypersonics. Like.
So what's Iran done? They've done the smart thing, and they threw the shit at Israel and the American bases in the first instance. They threw just the shit missiles at it. They get all knocked out of the sky. America's we're invincible, and then they keep throwing shit missiles at it. And you see the Iranian missile goes, the missile launch goes high and then it drops down. They're throwing less and less and less.
Yeah,
and then as the Americans start to run out of interceptors, the missile rate from Iran starts to creep up and gets higher and higher and higher. Now they're dropping. It
changes course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now they're dropping the good tech that's getting through because there's nothing to stop it. So they didn't waste their good stuff in the early days when there was a lot of defence. Now they're dropping it with pretty much impunity, which is kind of scary. I mean, imagine living in Israel right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much full-time kind of you're in the shelters. Like,
well, apparently the people aren't even coming out of the shelters now because the alarms aren't going off quick enough for them to get back. Because they're just they're coming in with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles an hour now instead of the old, 2,000 mile an hour missiles. They're coming in high speed.
Very, very, very heavy discussion. I know. I understand that it's very kind of burdensome for people to hear about this. We're in a very kind of serious situation in the world, but we're kind of finishing off, John, bringing it back towards the UK. Do you think that there's going to be any particular energy rations, fuel not food, fuel rationing?
Well, there could be food. Sorry, there could be food, couldn't there?
Is this something that you would kind of you could see in the horizon over the coming months, or?
Yeah, doesn't 30-40% of the world's nitrogen go through the Straits of Hormuz? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have nitrogen,
fertilizers,
you don't have fertilizer. You can't plant things like corn, and that's one of the things I brought up on Friday. The farmers in Iowa are looking at, do I plant corn or do I plant soy? Because soy fixes nitrogen itself from the air, so it doesn't need fertilizer. But it's cheap shit, and it's just there for animal feed. Mm-hmm. But mind you, is America going to end up eating tofu? Mm-hmm. Because it'll make a big effect, and then petrol's going to go up, and Americans are very sensitive to gas prices, as you know.
Oh yeah.
So petrol's going to go up, and petrol's gone up here. Diesel's gone through the roof. LNG, 20% of the world's LNG has just been knocked out in Qatar. Mm-hmm. So that's going to go up. The energy's going to go up, and Putin turns around and goes, the Europeans that didn't want my gas and oil when I was supplying it because of the Ukraine war now are requiring it, and I'm not going to sell it to them because he's got other markets and
Yeah.
he's got a memory and he won't take betrayal. So fuck you, Europe. And so
Yeah.
we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer. America's going to suffer, regardless of whether it produces its own kit or not. It's going to suffer because if it doesn't sell its stuff internally at the market price, then the market's just going to go higher. And America's just going to end up ostracized by the world.
So kind of a better situation in closing would be that, what is happening in, quote, as the media call it, West Asia, let's call it kind of, like Middle East for kind of, for ease and simplicity and all that, is that this cessates, like that this ceases, at the earliest kind of like opportunity, or let's say
Yeah.
for argument's sake, maybe by the end of this month, it's like, that's it, and markets like rally. But that does not mean that the world, like, and the rest of the West will not suffer some degree of incoming shocks over the over the coming months and potentially going into 2027 and after that as well. Because what has happened since the initial incursion, like on Iran, has been very serious, and it's been very damaging. So even if things do end in days or by the end
Yeah.
of this month, there's still a lot of stuff on the horizon there, isn't there?
Yeah. There's loads still to happen, and the problem is it depends on what Trump does or doesn't do next in these 48 hours. And he's backed himself into a corner there, hasn't he? Because if it passes and Iran says, just keep coming at us, bro.
Come at me, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. If Iran says that, what's he going to do? I mean, he sent the USS Boxer, he sent the USS Tripoli to the area. Now they're loaded with Marines. That's like 5,000 Marines. What's he going to do with them? Is he going to send them to their death? Is he? Because I think he might. Because he doesn't care. I don't think he cares about people. I mean, look at what he's doing in Cuba. Because the first thing he did when he took over Venezuela was cut off the oil to Cuba. So Cuba has run out of oil. The hospitals don't have any power.
Yeah,
people are dying.
Right,
people are dying. Yeah. And the only people helping them are Russia and Mexico. Because what else did he do? He didn't just cut off Venezuelan oil to Cuba. He said any tanker that docks in Cuba won't be allowed to dock at a US port for 180 days. That's not moral. It's not moral. I mean, and I don't get what Cuba's ever done to the States. What's Cuba done?
They're still paying for Fidel. They're still paying a heavy price.
The beer pigs, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the beer pigs, they stopped the Americans invading in the beer pigs. And that's it. That's the only thing that Cuba's done, is they defended themselves successfully. Yeah. Much like the Vietnamese. Much like the Afghans. Much like the North Koreans. Oh, there's a pattern here, isn't there? Fucking mental, mate. It's mental.
Defend yourself. Nationalize your energy supplies. They will not forget. They'll come back after you.
So here we go. Nearly 60% of the American public oppose this war. And Iran is rationing its missiles for a war of attrition. So are we going to watch the US walk blindfolded into another 20 years? Or is the American public going to stand up and start doing what they did in Vietnam and demand an extrication from it?
I think so. I think it's not a question of if, but it's when things are really going to start hurting, beyond Europe, kind of stretching over towards America. I do think we're going to see that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, I think
it's going to resonate with not just Afghanistan, but with the absolute, terrible atrocity that was Iraq. That's one thing that you hear very commonly amongst people, is that, like, they're going after Iran, they are after Iran. That is Iraq on steroids. And we're starting to see that like right now. Well, we haven't even gotten into that because it's like we're holding with bated breath. Like, is there going to be a ground incursion? Is it going to be boots on the ground? And if that is it's going to be a
It's
bloody mess. And Dover is going to be ready, but there will be
yeah.
media blackout. It's an absolute clusterfuck.
So yeah, it's going to be wait and see, and just to wind us up, Starmer. Now, this comes hard to me, right? But I think Starmer initially made the right decisions not to send anything to the Gulf, and so did the rest of Europe, because they were right. It's not their war. But what I don't understand is how can they see that as not their war, and yet think Ukraine is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't get.
Mm-hmm. There's something deeply kind of hypocritical and kind of like ironic about that as well.
Yeah. So I think Starmer made the right decision. I think he made absolutely the right decision not to send ships into the Gulf.
Yeah. Because there's enough problems at home. So I know it's
there
a
are.
difficult one against the toolmaker, but it's like a little bit of credit where credit's due.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird when you're praising people that are not praising people, but acknowledging that, maybe people that you really dislike and have made loads of terrible decisions, maybe made the right one on this occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And that won't sit well with a lot of people that think that think in terms of our allies and honouring them and helping them out. But as my mum used to say, if your mate jumped off the bridge, would you jump with him?
Or stick your fingers in the fire. Would you do the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly that.
However you want to reposition that idiom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same message applies.
So the same message applies, it does. And with that, I've been watching quite a few war movies recently on Snarky Cinema. And the Grumpy Scott's been been reviewing them. And the latest one was War Machine, which actually turned out surprisingly watchable. But I've gone on to watch The Outpost, which is a true story of Camp Keating in Afghanistan. And then last night I watched Warfare, which was another true story of Iraq with a Navy SEAL team. And oh my God, these movies are hard hitting, grisly, but not gratuitous. I think they're just showing the horror of war.
The horror of war, yeah.
Yeah, and the fuck up that happens, through no fault of people's good intentions and the way they're trying to do things, but shit just happens. I would recommend, if anyone wants to watch it, The Outpost is definitely worth watching. And some of the actors in The Outpost were the actual soldiers that were there.
Right, so not just kind of like background extras or secondary principals, but some of the principals were, wow.
Well, not like the top guys, but some of the soldiers that were in the thing were actually there and acted as themselves.
Wow, that's very interesting. That's very good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anything else, David?
No, I think we've covered a lot. And I know I'm sorry to people. I know it's very kind of it's negative, lots of negative connotations. It's very kind of doom and gloom kind of like based. But we're living through some deeply serious times at the moment, and it's got to be discussed. We've got to get it off our chest, but at the same time, trying to kind of inject some humor and some entertainment, like where we can, and have a little bit of a laugh and have a little bit of a drink about it. But folks, things are feckin' serious right now. Pay attention.
Things are serious.
Prepare.
And Frankie comes up with a cracking question at the end there. I don't know how you can say America's a dictatorship with Trump now elected. And I'll tell you why, Frankie. In fact, no, I won't. I'll tell you why tomorrow night when I'm on with Ben. And I'll point out exactly how America's become a dictatorship under Mr. Trump. And it's not quite a full dictatorship, but he's trying to make it one. But that's for tomorrow night.
I'll save a little something for
Yeah.
Ben's return. Yeah.
Yeah, because Jason Descent special tomorrow night. Ben will be back, hopefully. Can I plug Robin's debate? What debate, Robin? Where is your debate, mate? Send me a link. Send me a link and I'll tweet it, or whatever, or send me a message and I'll get it to you. I'll tweet it out for you. Yeah, but I will do.
It's been great for me, Sarge.
Yeah, but Ben's going to be fine. He just had one of his seizures. It happens occasionally.
I'm aware of them, and he will be okay.
Yeah, it knocks him down, and then he bounces back. He's like the Duracell bunny. You can't keep the bugger down.
Chumbawamba, you get knocked down, but you get back up. He
gets back up again. Yeah. So I think we'll play you out to Warhawks. Why not? That's how we came in. So it's been great for you.
Flag pin, shiny as a TV grin, talking tough from a leather chair, sending kids where they'll never sit. Golden tie, talking like it's do or die. Papers power while the cameras spin. Every word is a practice line. Kitchen table.